The rain pounded against the windshield as Marcus drove through the empty streets at midnight. His 7-year-old daughter Emma was finally asleep in the back seat after another restless night. The divorce had been finalized 6 months ago, but Emma still woke up crying for her mother, who had decided she wanted a different life, without the responsibilities of being a parent. Marcus worked double shifts at the construction site to make ends meet, and nights like these were when exhaustion hit him hardest. He was driving home from his sister's house where Emma had spent the evening while he worked late. The streetlights cast long shadows on the wet pavement, and the city felt eerily quiet except for the steady drumming of rain. That's when he saw her. A figure in white stumbled along the sidewalk, soaked to the bone. At first, Marcus thought his tired eyes were playing tricks on him. But as his headlights caught her fully, he realized it was a woman in what looked like a wedding dress. The fabric was torn and muddy, clinging to her thin frame as she walked barefoot on the cold concrete. Marcus slowed his truck and rolled down the passenger window. "Miss, are you okay?" he called out, but she didn't seem to hear him over the rain. She kept walking, her dark hair plastered to her face, her arms wrapped around herself for warmth. He pulled over and got out of the truck, glancing back to make sure Emma was still sleeping. "Hey, are you hurt?" he asked, approaching the woman carefully. He didn't want to scare her, but she looked like she might collapse at any moment. The woman finally looked up at him with the most frightened eyes Marcus had ever seen. They were green, he noticed, and filled with tears that mixed with the raindrops on her cheeks. Her lips were blue from the cold, and she was shivering uncontrollably. "Please," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I just need to get away from here." Marcus looked around the empty street. They were in a rough part of town, not the kind of place where weddings usually took place. "Where's your car? Your phone? Do you need me to call someone?" She shook her head frantically. "No police, no calls. Please, I just need somewhere safe for tonight." Every instinct told Marcus to be careful. He was a single father with a young daughter sleeping in his truck. He couldn't just pick up strangers, especially not in this part of town at this hour. But looking at this woman, seeing the genuine terror in her eyes and the way she flinched when a car passed by in the distance, he knew he couldn't just leave her there. "What's your name?" he asked gently. "Sarah," she said after a moment of hesitation. "Sarah Collins, I'm Marcus. Listen, Sarah, I have my daughter with me and I need to get her home, but I can't leave you out here like this. You'll freeze to death." Sarah looked toward his truck and saw the small figure curled up in the back seat. Something in her expression softened. "I don't want to cause any trouble for you or your little girl. The only trouble will be if I drive away and something happens to you," Marcus said firmly. "My apartment isn't much, but it's warm and dry. You can stay on the couch tonight, and in the morning we can figure out how to get you some help." Sarah studied his face in the dim light. She had learned not to trust easily, especially men who offered help, but there was something different about Marcus. Maybe it was the way he kept glancing back at his daughter to make sure she was safe, or the genuine concern in his voice. Maybe it was just that she had no other choice. "Okay," she whispered. "Thank you." Marcus helped her into the passenger seat and cranked up the heat. He found an old blanket behind the seat and wrapped it around her shoulders. Sarah pulled it tight around herself and stared out the window as they drove through the quiet streets. "Do you want to tell me what happened?" Marcus asked softly, not wanting to push but feeling like he should know something about the situation he was getting involved in. Sarah was quiet for so long that Marcus thought she might have fallen asleep. When she finally spoke, her voice was flat and emotionless. "I was supposed to get married today, but things didn't go as planned." Marcus wanted to ask more questions, but something about the way she said it made him think there was much more to the story. The torn dress, the fear in her eyes, the way she'd begged him not to call anyone. It all painted a picture that made his stomach turn. They arrived at his small apartment complex, and Marcus gently woke Emma. His daughter was groggy but didn't complain as he carried her upstairs. Sarah followed silently behind them, still wrapped in the blanket. The apartment was modest but clean. Marcus had worked hard to make it a comfortable home for Emma after the divorce. There were drawings on the refrigerator, toys neatly organized in bins, and pictures of Emma's soccer team on the walls. "The bathroom's down the hall if you want to clean up," Marcus said, setting Emma down and guiding her toward her bedroom. "I'll find you some dry clothes." When he returned with sweatpants and a t-shirt, Sarah was standing in the living room looking at a photo of Emma on her first day of school. There were tears in her eyes again. "She's beautiful," Sarah said. "You're lucky to have her." I know, Marcus replied, handing her the clothes. She's everything to me. Sarah nodded and disappeared into the bathroom. Marcus could hear the shower running as he tucked Emma back into bed. His daughter mumbled something about the pretty lady in the white dress before falling back asleep. When Sarah emerged from the bathroom, she looked completely different. Clean and dry, wearing his oversized clothes, she seemed younger somehow. But the fear was still there in her eyes, and Marcus noticed she kept glancing toward the windows as if expecting someone to appear. There are extra blankets in the closet, Marcus said, pointing toward the couch. Help yourself to anything in the kitchen if you get hungry. Marcus, Sarah said as he started toward his bedroom. Thank you. You didn't have to help me, especially with your daughter here. Everyone deserves to be safe, Marcus said simply. We'll figure out the rest tomorrow. As Marcus lay in bed that night, he wondered what he had gotten himself into. But every time he thought about that terrified woman on the street, soaked and alone, he knew he had made the right choice. He just hoped Sarah would trust him enough to tell him the truth about what she was running from. Marcus woke up before his alarm, the way he always did since becoming a single father. The events of the previous night felt almost like a dream until he heard soft voices coming from the kitchen. He found Sarah sitting at his small dining table with Emma, helping his daughter eat cereal while they talked quietly. Daddy, Emma called out when she saw him. Sarah made me breakfast and she knows how to braid hair like Mommy used to do. Marcus looked at Sarah, who had somehow managed to French braid Emma's unruly hair into neat plaits. Sarah's cheeks flushed pink. I hope you don't mind. She was hungry when she woke up and I couldn't sleep anyway. Thank you, Marcus said, meaning it. Getting Emma ready for school was always a rushed affair, and he had never mastered anything beyond basic ponytails. Emma, go brush your teeth. The school bus will be here soon. As Emma ran off to the bathroom, Marcus poured himself coffee and studied Sarah in the morning light. She looked exhausted with dark circles under her eyes, but she seemed calmer than she had the night before. She was still wearing his clothes, and he realized they would need to figure out what to do about her situation soon. How did you sleep? He asked. I didn't really, Sarah admitted, but your couch is very comfortable. Much better than... She stopped herself and looked down at her hands. Better than what? Marcus asked gently. Before Sarah could answer, Emma bounded back into the kitchen with her backpack. Are you going to stay here today, Sarah? Can you teach me more braids when I get home? Sarah looked uncertain. I'm not sure, sweetheart. I might need to go take care of some things. Marcus saw the fear creep back into Sarah's eyes at the mention of leaving. Actually, he said, making a quick decision, why don't you stay here today? Rest up a bit more. We can talk about your options when Emma gets home from school. Relief washed over Sarah's face. Are you sure? I don't want to impose. It's no imposition, Marcus said firmly. The school bus honked outside and Emma grabbed her lunchbox and gave both Marcus and Sarah quick hugs before running out the door. Marcus had to leave for work in 20 minutes, but he needed to know more about what Sarah was running from. He sat down across from her at the table. Sarah, I need to ask you something and I hope you'll be honest with me. Am I putting Emma in danger by letting you stay here? Sarah's eyes widened. No, God, no. I would never hurt a child. I would leave right now if I thought there was any chance of that. Then what are you running from? And don't just say a bad wedding, because women don't flee in torn dresses in the middle of the night unless something terrible happened. Sarah was quiet for a long moment, staring into her coffee cup. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. His name is Richard Blackwell. We were engaged for 8 months. At first he seemed perfect. Successful businessman, charming, generous. He swept me off my feet. She paused and touched a fading bruise on her wrist that Marcus hadn't noticed before. But he changed after we got engaged. Little things at first. He didn't like my friends, said they were bad influences. He convinced me to quit my job because he said he wanted to take care of me. Then he started getting angry when I went places without telling him first. Marcus felt his jaw clench. He had a feeling he knew where this story was going. Yesterday was supposed to be our wedding day. I was getting ready at the church when my maid of honor pulled me aside. She showed me photos on her phone that Richard's ex-wife had sent her. Pictures of her with black eyes, hospital records, police reports. She said Richard had put her in the hospital twice before she finally left him. Sarah's hands were shaking now. I confronted Richard about it. He didn't even deny it. He just laughed and said his ex-wife was crazy, and that I would learn to behave better than she did. He grabbed my arm so hard I knew there would be bruises, and he said once we were married, I would belong to him completely. So you ran, Marcus said. I locked myself in the bridal room and climbed out the window. I ran through the parking lot and into the woods behind the church. I could hear him yelling, hear people looking for me. I just kept running until I couldn't run anymore, and then I kept walking. I don't even know how many miles I walked before you found me. Marcus reached across the table and gently touched her hand. You did the right thing. Running took courage. Did it? Sarah asked, tears flowing now. Because I feel like a coward. I left my whole life behind. My apartment was in his name, my car was a gift from him. Even my phone was on his plan. I have nothing, Marcus. No money, no family, no friends who aren't probably on his side by now thinking I'm some crazy runaway bride. You have your life, Marcus said firmly, and that's worth more than all of that other stuff combined. Sarah wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. He's not going to just let this go. Richard doesn't like to lose, and he definitely doesn't like to be embarrassed. He'll be looking for me. Then we'll make sure he doesn't find you, Marcus said. He looked at the clock and realized he was going to be late for work. I have to go, but promise me you'll stay here today. Don't go anywhere, don't answer the door unless it's Emma coming home from school. Marcus, I can't ask you to get involved in this. Richard is dangerous and he has money and connections. If he finds out you helped me, let me worry about that, Marcus said, standing up. You just focus on staying safe. He grabbed his keys and headed for the door, then turned back. Sarah, you said you don't have any family. What about your parents? Sarah's expression grew even sadder. They died in a car accident 3 years ago. That's actually how I met Richard. He was the lawyer who handled their estate. I was so lost and grieving, and he seemed so caring and supportive. I realize now that he targeted me because I was vulnerable and alone. Marcus felt a surge of anger toward this Richard Blackwell, whoever he was. Well, you're not alone anymore, he said. I'll be back by 6. Keep the doors locked. As Marcus drove to work, his mind raced with everything Sarah had told him. He thought about Emma's excitement at having Sarah there, how natural it had seemed to see them together at the breakfast table. But he also thought about the fear in Sarah's eyes and the bruises on her wrist. He had no idea what he was getting himself into, but he knew one thing for certain. He wasn't going to let some rich bully hurt the woman who had made his daughter smile more in one morning than she had in months. Marcus made a mental note to stop by the police station on his lunch break. Maybe they couldn't do much without Sarah filing a formal complaint, but at least he could find out what options were available. He also thought about calling his sister Linda, who worked as a victim advocate at the local women's shelter. She would know better than anyone what Sarah needed to do to stay safe. As he pulled into the construction site parking lot, Marcus realized his life had just become much more complicated. But looking up at his apartment building one more time, thinking about Sarah and Emma having breakfast together, he found that he didn't mind the complication as much as he probably should have. Sarah spent the morning cleaning Marcus's apartment, even though it was already spotless. She needed something to do with her hands, something to keep her mind busy. Every car that passed outside made her heart race. Every unexpected sound made her freeze and listen. Around noon, she was folding laundry when her phone buzzed. She had forgotten she still had it, tucked into the small purse she'd grabbed on her way out of the church. The screen showed 17 missed calls from Richard and dozens of text messages. Her hands shook as she read through them. The first few were concerned, asking where she was, saying he was worried. Then they became angry, demanding she come back, saying she was embarrassing him in front of everyone. The most recent ones were different, cold, threatening. You can't hide from me. Sarah, I will find you, and when I do, you'll regret making me look like a fool. I know you're scared, but running away won't solve anything. Come home and we can work this out like adults. You have no money, no car, nowhere to go. You need me, Sarah. Stop being dramatic and come back before you make things worse for yourself. Sarah turned off the phone with shaking hands and shoved it into a drawer. She couldn't bring herself to throw it away completely, but she couldn't bear to look at those messages anymore either. She tried to distract herself by looking through Marcus's bookshelf. He had books about construction and home improvement, but also novels and biographies. There were several parenting books with bookmark pages marked, and she smiled at the evidence of how hard he was trying to be a good father. On the mantel above the fireplace were photos of Emma at various ages, and a few of Marcus with a woman who must have been his ex-wife. Sarah studied the pictures and noticed that in the more recent ones, Marcus's smile didn't quite reach his eyes. She wondered what his story was, what had led to him being a single father picking up strangers on rainy nights. When Emma burst through the door at 3:30, Sarah was startled out of her thoughts. "Sarah, you're still here." Emma dropped her backpack and ran to give Sarah a hug. "I was worried you might leave before I got home." "I'm still here," Sarah said, hugging her back. The simple affection from this child made her eyes well up with tears. "How was school?" "Good. I told my friend Amy about you, about how you can braid hair, and you made me breakfast. She wants to meet you sometime." Emma settled onto the couch next to Sarah. "Are you going to live with us now?" Sarah's heart ached at the innocent question. "Oh, sweetheart, I'm just staying for a little while. Your daddy was very kind to help me, but I can't stay forever." "Why not?" Emma asked with the straightforward curiosity of a 7-year-old. "Don't you have anywhere else to go?" Sarah struggled with how to answer that question honestly without frightening the child. "It's complicated, Emma. Sometimes grown-ups have problems that take time to solve." "Is that why you were wearing that pretty white dress in the rain? Because of grown-up problems?" "Something like that," Sarah said softly. Emma seemed to accept this explanation. "Well, I hope you stay for a while. Daddy doesn't smile as much since Mommy left, but he smiled at breakfast this morning when he saw us together." Sarah felt her chest tighten. She was becoming attached to this little girl and her father, and she knew that was dangerous for all of them. The longer she stayed, the harder it would be to leave, and the more risk she brought to their lives. They spent the afternoon doing homework together, and Sarah helped Emma practice reading. Emma was bright and funny, chattering about her friends and her teacher and her soccer team. For a few hours, Sarah almost forgot about the fear that had been her constant companion for the past 24 hours. Marcus arrived home at 6:15, looking tired but lighting up when he saw Emma showing Sarah her art project from school. "How was your day?" he asked Sarah while Emma went to wash her hands for dinner. "Quiet, peaceful," Sarah said. "Emma is wonderful. You're doing an amazing job with her." "Some days I feel like I'm just barely keeping my head above water," Marcus admitted. "Single parenting is harder than I expected. What happened with her mother, if you don't mind me asking?" Marcus's expression darkened. Jennifer decided she wanted a different life. No responsibilities, no schedules, no one depending on her. She moved across the country with some guy she met online and barely calls Emma anymore. "I'm sorry. That must have been devastating for Emma." "It was. For both of us, honestly. But Emma's resilient. She's adjusted better than I have in a lot of ways." During dinner, Marcus seemed distracted. Sarah could tell he had something on his mind. And when Emma went to her room to play after they finished eating, he finally spoke up. "I went to the police station on my lunch break today," he said. Sarah felt her stomach drop. "Marcus, I told you I didn't want to involve the police, just to ask some general questions." "I didn't give them your name or any specifics." "But Sarah, if this Richard guy is as dangerous as you think he is, you need to consider getting a restraining order." "A piece of paper isn't going to stop him," Sarah said bitterly. "If anything, it will just make him angrier." "Maybe. But at least it would create a legal record. And I also called my sister Linda. She works at a women's shelter and she says they have resources that could help you. Safe housing, legal aid, job placement services." Sarah shook her head. "I can't go to a shelter. Richard has connections everywhere in this city. He'll find me. Then maybe you need to leave the city." The words hung in the air between them. Sarah had been thinking the same thing, but hearing it said out loud made it real. She would have to leave. Start over somewhere completely new with nothing but the clothes on her back. "I don't have money for that," she said quietly. "I don't have money for anything." Marcus was quiet for a moment. "What if I helped you?" "You've already helped me more than I could ever repay. I can't ask you to do more. You're not asking. I'm offering." Marcus leaned forward. "Sarah, I've been thinking about this all day. This guy sounds like bad news, and I don't like the idea of him hurting you or anyone else. What if we found a way to get you somewhere safe, somewhere you could start over?" "Marcus, you barely know me." "Why would you do that?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment, and Sarah thought he might not answer. When he finally spoke, his voice was soft. "Because everyone deserves to be safe. Because Emma likes you, and she's been through enough loss already. And because—" he paused. "Because I haven't seen anyone make Emma laugh the way she did this morning in a very long time." Sarah felt tears building in her eyes again. "I don't want to bring danger to your family." The danger is already out there whether you're here or not. This Richard guy exists whether we help you or not. At least this way you have a chance to get away from him." Before Sarah could respond, Emma appeared in the doorway in her pajamas, ready for her bedtime story. As Marcus tucked his daughter in, Sarah sat on the couch thinking about his offer. Could she really start over somewhere new? Did she have the courage to build a life from nothing? More importantly, did she have the courage to accept help from people who were quickly becoming more important to her than she had expected? When Marcus came back to the living room, Sarah had made her decision. "If you really mean it about helping me leave," she said, "I think I need to take you up on that offer. But I need you to promise me something." "What's that?" "Promise me that if Richard finds out you helped me, you'll tell him everything. Where I went, what the plan was, whatever he wants to know. Don't protect me at the expense of Emma's safety." Marcus looked at her seriously. "Sarah, that's not going to happen. Promise me anyway." "I promise," Marcus said, though Sarah could tell he had no intention of keeping that promise if it came to that. As they sat making plans for her escape, Sarah realized she was trusting this man and his daughter with her life. She only hoped she wasn't making a mistake that would put them all in danger. The next morning brought unexpected complications. Marcus was getting ready for work when his phone rang. The number was unfamiliar, but something made him answer it. "Is this Marcus Reed?" The voice was smooth, professional, with an underlying edge that immediately put Marcus on alert. "Who's asking?" "My name is Richard Blackwell. I believe you may have encountered my fiancée, Sarah Collins. She went missing 2 nights ago, and I'm very concerned about her well-being." Marcus felt his blood run cold, but he kept his voice steady. "I'm sorry, I don't know anyone by that name." "Really?" "Because a gas station attendant remembers seeing a man matching your description, helping a woman in a wedding dress into a pickup truck around midnight 2 nights ago. Your license plate was partially visible on the security footage." Marcus's mind raced. He had stopped for gas on the way home that night, and Sarah had stayed in the truck. He hadn't thought about security cameras. "Look, Mr. Reed, I'm not trying to cause trouble. I just want to make sure Sarah is safe. She's been under a lot of stress lately, and I'm worried she might hurt herself. If you've seen her, please just let me know she's okay." The concern in Richard's voice sounded genuine, but Sarah's words echoed in Marcus's head. She had said Richard was charming, that he had fooled everyone at first. "Like I said, I don't know anyone named Sarah," Marcus repeated. There was a pause on the other end of the line. When Richard spoke again, his voice was colder. "I hope for your sake that's true, Mr. Reed. I'd hate for there to be any misunderstandings, especially with you having a young daughter to think about." The line went dead. Marcus stared at his phone, his hand shaking with anger. The threat had been subtle but unmistakable. This man had not only found him, but he knew about Emma. Sarah was in the kitchen making Emma's lunch when Marcus walked in. She took one look at his face and knew something was wrong. "What happened?" "He called me." Marcus kept his voice low so Emma wouldn't hear from the living room where she was watching cartoons. "Richard, he knows I picked you up." Sarah's face went white. "How?" "Security camera at a gas station. He saw my license plate." Marcus ran his hands through his hair. "Sarah," he threatened Emma, not directly, but the message was clear. Sarah sank into a chair, her hands shaking. "I have to leave. Right now. I'll pack my things and go." "Where?" "You don't have money, you don't have a car. If he found me this quickly, he'll find you anywhere you try to go in this city. Then I'll figure something out. I won't put you and Emma at risk because of my problems." Marcus sat down across from her. "We're going to stick to the plan. We'll just have to move faster than we thought." "Marcus, you don't understand. Richard isn't just some angry ex-boyfriend. His family has money and political connections. He knows judges, police officers, people who can make life very difficult for you if you cross him. All the more reason to get you somewhere safe before he can do anything else." Emma wandered into the kitchen, sensing the tension. "Why do you both look sad?" Marcus forced a smile. "We're not sad, sweetheart. Just talking about grown-up stuff. Are you ready for school?" As they went through the morning routine, Marcus's mind was working overtime. The original plan had been to wait until the weekend to drive Sarah to his cousin's house in another state, but they didn't have that luxury now. He needed to make some phone calls. After Emma left for school, Marcus called his foreman and asked for the day off, claiming a family emergency. Then he called his sister, Linda. "I need that favor we talked about," he said when she answered. "What's going on, Marcus?" "You sound stressed." That friend I mentioned, the one who needs help getting away from an abusive situation? It's gotten more complicated. He found her, and he's making threats. Linda was quiet for a moment. How bad are we talking here? Bad enough that I think she needs to disappear completely. New city, new identity if possible. Marcus, what have you gotten yourself into? I'm trying to help someone who doesn't have anyone else. Can you help us or not? Linda sighed. Give me 2 hours. I'll make some calls and see what I can arrange. But Marcus, be careful. These situations can get dangerous fast. While Marcus made arrangements, Sarah sat in the living room staring at her phone. She had turned it back on and found dozens more messages from Richard. The tone had changed completely. Gone were the threats and demands. Now he was playing the part of the worried fiancé again. Sarah, please call me. I know you're scared and confused, but we can work through this together. I spoke to Dr. Martinez about your episode. He thinks you might be having a breakdown from the wedding stress. There are treatments that can help. Everyone is worried about you. Your friend Katie has been calling constantly. Please just let someone know you're alive. Sarah almost laughed at the manipulation. Richard was setting up a narrative where she was mentally unstable, making it so that if she did come forward, no one would believe her story. It was exactly the kind of calculated move she should have expected from him. The phone rang in her hands and Richard's name appeared on the screen. Without thinking, she answered it. Sarah? Thank God, where are you? Are you hurt? I'm fine, Richard. You don't sound fine. You sound scared. Who is this man you're with? Has he hurt you? No one has hurt me except you. Sarah, I think you're confused. You've been under a lot of stress and I think it's affecting your judgment. I've already spoken to Dr. Martinez and he agrees that you need help. Stop it, Richard. I remember exactly what happened. I remember what you said to me, what you showed me about your ex-wife. I'm not coming back. Richard's voice changed, becoming harder. You will come back, Sarah, because you don't have anywhere else to go, and because I won't let some construction worker nobody steal what belongs to me. I don't belong to you. We'll see about that. You can't hide forever, and when I find you, we're going to have a very long conversation about your behavior. Sarah hung up and immediately turned off the phone. She was shaking so badly she could barely hold it. Marcus found her on the couch a few minutes later, curled up in a ball. He called me, she said. He knows I'm with someone, and he's already spinning this story that I'm having a mental breakdown. If this goes public, no one will believe me. Marcus sat down next to her. We're not going to let it get that far. Linda called back. She has a contact at an underground network that helps domestic violence victims disappear completely. They can get you new identification, help you relocate somewhere safe. How much does something like that cost? Don't worry about the money right now. Linda's contact is willing to help because of her recommendation. Sarah looked at him with tears in her eyes. Why are you doing this? You could just turn me into Richard and be done with all of this. Because that's not who I am, Marcus said simply. And because Emma would never forgive me if I let something happen to you. As if summoned by her name, Emma's voice carried from the hallway. Daddy, I don't feel good. Marcus went to check on her and found Emma sitting on the floor by the front door looking pale and scared. The school nurse called Mommy instead of you, and when Mommy didn't answer, they called the emergency contact. But Uncle Pete couldn't pick me up, so they let me walk home. Emma, you know you're not supposed to walk home alone, Marcus said, kneeling beside her. I know, but my tummy hurt so bad, and I just wanted to come home. As Marcus helped Emma to the couch, Sarah noticed a black sedan parked across the street that hadn't been there before. The windows were tinted and she couldn't see who was inside, but something about it made her stomach clench with fear. Marcus, she said quietly, nodding toward the window. He followed her gaze and his jaw tightened. Take Emma to her room and stay there, he said. I'm calling Linda. As Sarah guided a confused Emma down the hallway, she realized their time had just run out. Richard had found them and now there was nowhere left to run. The black sedan sat outside for 3 hours. Marcus watched from behind the curtains while Sarah tried to keep Emma distracted in her bedroom. Emma was feeling better but confused about why they couldn't go into the living room or kitchen. Is this because of the bad man who made you sad? Emma asked Sarah with the intuitive understanding that children sometimes possessed. Sarah's heart ached at how perceptive this little girl was. Something like that, sweetheart. But your daddy is taking care of everything. Marcus's phone buzzed with a text from Linda. Contact says to wait until dark. Have exit strategy ready. Car will be here at 9 p.m. He texted back, being watched. May not be possible. The response came quickly. We'll create distraction. Be ready to move fast. As evening approached, the black sedan finally left. Marcus waited another hour to make sure it wasn't coming back, before allowing Sarah and Emma to come out of the bedroom. Emma was cranky and hungry, but she perked up when Sarah started making dinner. What kind of distraction do you think your sister meant? Sarah asked quietly while Emma watched cartoons. With Linda, it could be anything. She once organized a flash mob to distract security guards while she helped a woman retrieve her belongings from her abuser's house. At 8:30, sirens began wailing in the distance. Within minutes, fire trucks and police cars were racing down the street toward what appeared to be a large apartment fire 3 blocks away. Marcus watched from the window as neighbors came out of their houses to see what was happening. That's our distraction, he said grimly. Linda works fast. She didn't actually start a fire, did she? Sarah asked, alarmed. No, but she probably called in a gas leak or something similar. Something that requires a big emergency response but isn't actually dangerous. At exactly 9 o'clock, a plain white van pulled up in front of the apartment building. A woman in her 50s got out and walked calmly to Marcus's door. She was unremarkable in every way, the kind of person you would forget 5 minutes after meeting her, which Marcus realized was probably the point. Marcus Reed, she said when he opened the door. I'm Helen. Linda sent me. Thank you for coming, Marcus said, stepping aside to let her in. Helen looked around the apartment quickly, taking in Sarah and Emma on the couch. Her expression softened when she saw the little girl. We need to move fast, Helen said to Sarah. The fire department distraction won't last much longer, and your friend has people watching this building again. They're just farther back now, thinking they're being more subtle. Sarah felt her stomach drop. He's still out there? 3 different vehicles rotating surveillance. This Richard Blackwell doesn't mess around. Helen opened a large bag she'd been carrying. I need you to change into these clothes and put on this wig. We're going to walk right past them, but you need to look like someone completely different. Sarah looked at the clothes Helen pulled out. A business suit, sensible shoes, and a short brown wig that would completely change her appearance. There were also glasses and subtle makeup to alter her features. What about Emma? Sarah asked, looking at the little girl who was watching everything with wide eyes. Emma stays here with her father, Helen said firmly. This is too dangerous for a child. But what if Richard tries to hurt them after I'm gone? Helen's expression was serious. That's a risk, but it's a bigger risk to take a 7-year-old into an underground relocation situation. Marcus, you and your daughter might want to consider staying somewhere else for a few weeks until things cool down. Marcus nodded. He had already thought of that. His sister had a spare room, and Emma loved staying there anyway. Sarah disappeared into the bathroom to change while Helen explained the plan to Marcus. They would leave through the back entrance of the building, walk through the alley to a waiting car 2 streets over, and drive to a safe house outside the city. From there, Sarah would be transported to a new location where she could start building a new life. How long before she can contact us? Marcus asked. Emma is going to want to know she's safe. At least 6 months, maybe longer. It depends on how hard this Richard guy looks for her and how much heat he brings. The less contact she has with her old life, the safer everyone is. When Sarah came out of the bathroom, she looked like a completely different person. The wig changed the shape of her face, and the business clothes made her seem older and more professional. Even her posture had changed. Emma stared at her in amazement. Sarah, you look like a different person. That's the idea, sweetheart, Sarah said, kneeling down to Emma's level. Her voice was thick with emotion. I have to go away for a while. When will you come back? Sarah looked at Marcus helplessly. How do you explain to a 7-year-old that you might never see her again? I don't know, Emma. But I want you to know that meeting you and your daddy has been the best thing that's happened to me in a very long time. Emma threw her arms around Sarah's neck. I don't want you to go. Can't you stay and live with us? I wish I could, but it's not safe. The bad man who made me sad is still looking for me, and I don't want him to hurt you or your daddy. Marcus watched the scene with a heavy heart. In just 3 days, Sarah had become important to both of them in ways he hadn't expected. Emma had been happier and more settled than she'd been since the divorce, and Marcus had found himself looking forward to coming home in a way he hadn't in months. Helen checked her watch. We need to go. The longer we wait, the more dangerous this becomes. Sarah stood up and faced Marcus. "Thank you," she said simply. "For everything. You saved my life. You saved something in us too," Marcus said quietly. Helen handed Sarah a small phone. "Emergency contact only. If you're in immediate danger, call the number programmed in there. Otherwise, no contact with anyone from your old life for at least 6 months." Sarah nodded and slipped the phone into her purse. Helen opened the door and checked the hallway. "Clear. Let's go." Sarah gave Emma one more hug and whispered something in her ear that made the little girl nod solemnly. Then she followed Helen out the door without looking back. Marcus watched from the window as 2 figures walked casually through the back alley and disappeared into the darkness. A few minutes later, he saw a car's headlights briefly illuminate the street 2 blocks away, before disappearing into the night. Emma climbed onto the couch next to him. "Daddy, what did Sarah whisper to me?" "What did she say, sweetheart?" "She said to tell you that brave people take care of each other, and that you're the bravest person she ever met." Marcus felt his eyes fill with tears. He pulled Emma close and held her tight, wondering if they would ever see Sarah again, and hoping that wherever she was going, she would finally be safe. Outside, one of Richard's surveillance cars started its engine and slowly pulled away from the curb. Marcus realized they had been watching the wrong person leave the building, which meant Sarah and Helen had successfully gotten away undetected. For the first time in 3 days, Marcus allowed himself to hope that maybe, just maybe, everything was going to be okay. But as he started packing bags for himself and Emma to go stay at Linda's house, he couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't over. Men like Richard Blackwell didn't give up easily, and Marcus had a sinking feeling that their paths would cross again before this was finished. The question was whether Sarah would be far enough away and well enough hidden when that happened. Because Marcus was beginning to understand that he would do whatever it took to protect her, even if it meant facing down a dangerous man with unlimited resources and a determination to win at any cost. As he tucked Emma into bed at Linda's house later that night, his daughter asked one more question that would haunt him for months to come. "Daddy, do you think Sarah will ever come back to us?" Marcus kissed her forehead and said what he hoped was true. "If she can, sweetheart. If she can." 8 months passed before Marcus saw Sarah again, though it wasn't the reunion any of them had hoped for. Life had slowly returned to normal after that terrifying night. Emma had asked about Sarah constantly for the first few weeks, then gradually less often as the months went by. Marcus had gone back to his regular routine of work and single parenting, but something fundamental had changed in him. He found himself more aware of the people around him, more willing to help when he saw someone in need. Richard Blackwell had made his life difficult for about 2 months after Sarah disappeared. There had been surprise visits from social services to check on Emma's welfare, anonymous complaints to Marcus's employer about his work performance, and even a minor audit of his taxes. But eventually, the harassment stopped, and Marcus assumed Richard had either given up or found other things to occupy his attention. Marcus was wrong. On a cold Tuesday morning in March, Linda called him at work with panic in her voice. "Marcus, you need to get Emma and disappear for a while. Richard Blackwell has been asking questions about the underground network. Someone talked and he knows Helen helped Sarah get away. What does that mean for us? It means he's going to come after everyone who helped her. He's been methodically tracking down people in the network, and your name is going to come up soon if it hasn't already." Marcus felt the familiar chill of fear run down his spine. "How much time do we have?" "Maybe a few hours, maybe a few days. I don't know." "But Marcus, there's something else. Helen managed to get a message to Sarah. She's coming back." "What? Why would she do that?" "Because she found out about the people Richard has been hurting while looking for her. A woman in the network was beaten so badly she's in intensive care. Sarah blames herself and she's coming back to turn herself in." Marcus felt sick. "We have to stop her. We have to protect Emma first. Get her and meet me at the cabin upstate. I'm leaving now." Marcus hung up and told his foreman he had a family emergency. His hands shook as he drove to Emma's school and signed her out early, claiming she had a doctor's appointment. "Where are we going, Daddy?" Emma asked as they drove toward Linda's cabin instead of toward home or the doctor's office. "We're going to visit Aunt Linda for a few days. It'll be like a vacation." "Is this about Sarah? Is she coming back?" Marcus looked at his daughter in the rearview mirror. amazed again by her perceptiveness. Maybe, sweetheart, but right now I just want to make sure you're safe. They reached Linda's cabin by late afternoon. It was isolated, surrounded by woods, the kind of place where you could hide for weeks without being found. Linda was already there, pacing the small living room with her phone pressed to her ear. "I can't reach Helen," she said when she hung up. She was supposed to call 2 hours ago. That night, Marcus lay awake listening to every sound outside the cabin while Emma slept peacefully in the bedroom next to his. Around midnight, he heard a car coming up the long gravel driveway. Linda appeared in his doorway with a baseball bat in her hands. "That's not Helen's car," she whispered. Marcus grabbed the shotgun Linda kept for protection and moved to the front window. The car's headlights went out, but he could see a figure moving in the darkness. "Marcus," a familiar voice called softly. "It's me. It's Sarah." Marcus felt his heart skip a beat. He opened the door carefully, keeping the shotgun ready, and saw Sarah standing at the edge of the porch light. She looked different again. Her hair was shorter and blonde now, and she was thinner than she had been. But her eyes were the same, and they were filled with the same fear he remembered. "Sarah, what are you doing here?" he asked, lowering the gun. "I couldn't stay hidden knowing that people were getting hurt because of me. I heard about the woman Richard put in the hospital. I heard he's been threatening you and Emma." "So you came back to do what exactly? Turn yourself in? Let him kill you?" "I came back to end this," Sarah said quietly. "One way or another." Emma appeared in the doorway in her pajamas, rubbing her eyes. When she saw Sarah, her face lit up with joy. "Sarah, you came back. I knew you would." Sarah knelt down and opened her arms as Emma ran to her. "Hi, sweetheart. I missed you so much. I missed you too. Are you going to stay with us now?" Sarah looked at Marcus over Emma's head. "I don't know yet, Emma. It's complicated." Linda appeared with coffee and a grim expression. "Sarah, Helen is missing. She was supposed to check in hours ago and her phone goes straight to voicemail." "Richard has her," Sarah said with certainty. "He's been systematically taking apart the network that helped me. It's only a matter of time before he comes for all of you." "Then we call the police," Marcus said, "and tell them what? That a respected businessman with political connections is threatening people? Richard is too smart to leave evidence. It would be his word against ours, and who do you think they'll believe?" "So what's your plan?" Linda asked. Sarah was quiet for a moment, looking at Emma, who had curled up next to her on the couch. "I'm going to meet with him. I'm going to offer him a trade." "What kind of trade?" "Me for everyone else. I'll go back to him, marry him, be the perfect wife he wants if he leaves all of you alone." "Absolutely not," Marcus said immediately. "That's not a solution, that's a death sentence." "Maybe. But it's my death sentence to make." Emma looked up at Sarah with confusion. "Why would you go back to the bad man who made you sad?" Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "Because sometimes grown-ups have to make hard choices to protect the people they love." Marcus felt something snap inside him. "No, there has to be another way." "What other way, Marcus?" "He's never going to stop. As long as I'm free, he's going to keep hurting people to get to me. At least if I go back to him, you and Emma and everyone else will be safe." "And what happens when he gets bored with punishing you and decides he wants revenge on us anyway?" Marcus asked. "Men like Richard don't just forget about being humiliated." Linda looked up from her laptop. "Actually, there might be another option." "What do you mean?" "I've been doing some research on Richard Blackwell while you two were talking. Turns out he's not as clean as he appears. There are rumors about his business practices, allegations of bribery and fraud. Nothing that's stuck so far, but there are patterns. How does that help us? Because if we can find proof of his illegal activities, we have leverage. Something to make him back off permanently." Sarah shook her head. "That's too risky. If we go after him and fail, he'll destroy all of you. And if we let you sacrifice yourself, we'll have to live with that for the rest of our lives." Marcus said firmly. "Emma will have to live with that." "Is that really what you want?" Sarah looked at Emma, who was listening to every word with wide, frightened eyes. "No," she whispered. "It's not." "Then we do this together," Marcus said. "All of us. We find a way to stop Richard Blackwell once and for all." Linda pulled up files on her computer.
"I have contacts at the FBI who investigate financial crimes.
If we can find solid evidence of Richard's illegal activities, they might be willing to move against him." "That could take months," Sarah said. "Helen might not have months." "Then we make our own evidence," Marcus said, an idea forming in his mind. "Sarah, you said Richard is obsessed with winning, with being in control. What if we gave him a chance to confess to everything while thinking he was safe? You mean wire me up and send me to meet with him? I mean we set up a situation where his ego gets the better of him, where he can't resist bragging about how clever he's been. Sarah was quiet for a long moment, considering the plan. Finally, she nodded. It might work. But if it goes wrong, we're not any worse off than we are now, Marcus said. And Emma, you're going to stay here with Aunt Linda while the grown-ups take care of the bad man, okay? Emma nodded solemnly. But you have to promise to come back. Both of you. Marcus and Sarah exchanged a look. They both knew it was a promise they might not be able to keep. We promise to try our hardest, Sarah said, which was the most honest answer she could give. As they spent the rest of the night planning their confrontation with Richard Blackwell, Marcus realized that somewhere along the way, this had stopped being about just helping a stranger in need. Sarah had become family, and he would risk everything to protect his family. The question was whether their plan would be enough to stop a man who had already proven he would destroy anyone who got in his way. But for the first time since this nightmare began, Marcus felt like they had a real chance at ending it. All they had to do was survive long enough to see their plan through.